English Tories from the time of the Glorious Revolution until the passage of the Reform Act in the early 19th century were defined by their commitment to the monarchy, their staunch support for the Church of England, and their general opposition to sweeping political or societal changes. This orientation meant that they were often resistant to ideas associated with radical reform and revolutionary ideologies. The Tory party was not merely a philosophical current but a functioning political organization that periodically held governmental power. Over time, the political landscape in England began to evolve. By the later part of the 18th century, a new synthesis emerged, incorporating moderate economic ideas traditionally associated with the Whigs and the social values championed by the Tories. This blending laid the groundwork for what would become known as Conservatism. In opposition to the French Revolution and its perceived excesses, figures like Edmund Burke and William Pitt the Younger helped to shape the emerging conservative ethos. Burke, in particular, articulated a political philosophy that emphasized order, tradition, and the accumulated wisdom of the past. Rather than embrace revolutionary change, Burke argued for a cautious, evolutionary approach to reform, grounded in respect for inherited institutions and practices. Pitt, though known for his administrative capabilities and reformist leanings in economic matters, also upheld many Tory principles, especially in foreign policy and national defense. The political ideology that would come to be recognized as conservatism did not spring fully formed but gradually took shape through these contributions. By the early decades of the 19th century, the word conservative began to be used more regularly. During the 1830s, followers of Robert Peel began to reinterpret traditional Tory principles in light of the demands of a changing society. Peel and his supporters advocated for social reform and the opening of markets through policies like free trade, while maintaining the traditional Tory emphasis on institutional continuity and national unity. This evolution of thought and policy led to the eventual formation of the Conservative and Unionist Party, a development that formalized the transition from the older Tory label to the newer Conservative identity. Nonetheless, the term Tory did not disappear, continuing to be used as a colloquial synonym for conservative. As conservatism developed further, a particular branch known as traditionalist conservatism emerged. This form of conservatism, also referred to as classical conservatism, is deeply rooted in the idea that there are enduring moral truths that society must align with. These truths are thought to be accessible through natural law, which implies that human society should conform to a higher order or pattern that transcends individual preferences or contemporary trends. Traditionalist conservatism places a high value on social cohesion, cultural continuity, and the transmission of inherited wisdom across generations. Edmund Burke is widely regarded as one of the intellectual fathers of traditionalist conservatism, and his ideas were echoed and expanded upon by other thinkers, including Joseph de Maistre. These thinkers shared a skepticism of radical change and were wary of the human capacity to reason abstractly about society without recourse to established traditions. They saw human institutions not as arbitrary constructs but as the product of centuries of organic development, embodying the collective experience and practical wisdom of past generations. Traditionalist conservatism gained further articulation through the writings of figures like François-René de Chateaubriand and Louis de Bonald. Around the year 1818, Chateaubriand helped to found a monarchist newspaper called Le Conservateur, which used the term conservatism to signify a commitment to preserving the social and political order. This marked one of the first known uses of the term in its modern political sense. Central to traditionalist conservatism is the belief in the importance of nation, culture, custom, and tradition. These elements are seen not as optional or secondary, but as essential foundations for a stable and just society. Practical reason, grounded in real-world experience and historical understanding, is valued more highly than theoretical reason or abstract rationalism. Traditionalists tend to view society not as a mere contract between individuals, but as an organic and spiritual community that binds past, present, and future generations. From this perspective, the state is not merely a mechanism for the implementation of policy or the enforcement of law. Instead, it is seen as a social organism with a spiritual dimension, whose purpose is to uphold the moral and cultural values that sustain civilization. Change, in the traditionalist view, should not be the result of revolutionary impulses or deliberate rational schemes. Rather, it should emerge gradually from within the traditions of the community, adapting old forms to new circumstances without severing the connection to the past. Leadership, authority, and social hierarchy are also considered natural and necessary features of human society by traditionalist conservatives. These structures are not viewed as oppressive or arbitrary, but as expressions of the natural order. Respect for authority and deference to established institutions are seen as essential for the preservation of social harmony and moral order. Traditionalist conservatism arose as a distinct reaction to the Enlightenment and to the political upheavals of the 18th century, including both the English and French revolutions. Enlightenment thinkers had emphasized reason, individual rights, and the possibility of constructing society anew on rational foundations. In contrast, traditionalist conservatives viewed these ideas with suspicion, fearing that the rejection of tradition and inherited wisdom would lead to social disintegration and moral chaos. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, traditionalist conservatism continued to exert influence in various European societies. It provided an intellectual counterpoint to the liberal and socialist ideologies that were gaining ground during this period. While liberals emphasized individual freedom and legal equality, and socialists focused on economic justice and collective ownership, traditionalist conservatives called for the preservation of cultural identity, social order, and moral virtue. The mid-20th century saw a revival of traditionalist conservatism as both a political and intellectual force. In response to the devastations of two world wars and the rise of totalitarian regimes, many thinkers and political leaders began to reconsider the importance of cultural continuity, ethical foundations, and institutional stability. In various countries, conservative parties and movements began to incorporate traditionalist ideas into their platforms, advocating for policies that emphasized family values, national identity, and respect for historical institutions. Although traditionalist conservatism remains one of several strands within the broader conservative tradition, it continues to shape debates about the role of government, the purpose of education, the meaning of community, and the limits of individual autonomy. Its enduring appeal lies in its emphasis on the deep roots of human society and its call to honor the wisdom of the past while navigating the challenges of the present.